And welcome to the Go Earn It podcast. It is episode 41. Looking forward to hearing the story of our next guest, Drew Foster, two-time All-American at Northern Iowa, won the national title in 2019. He's from Burlington High School, Burlington, Iowa, Mediapolis High School. Drew, I'm excited to dive into your story. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Doing
One of the
well.
first things, Drew, that stood out to me in doing a little bit of research on you, and I love this. It's my first question, and I want you to rant on it and give me the reasons why it was so helpful. You were a four-sport athlete: football, wrestling, track, soccer. Tell us
Yep.
about how important it was to be a four-sport athlete.
I think that's an argument that comes up a lot in today's world. I just think that it made me very well versed, right? So I was able to do a lot more things as far as just athletic ability, right? I'm getting put in different situations. And then I learned to get better and like have to work to get better with other sports that I wasn't as good at. And I learned how to lose. And I think that was a big thing along the way. So right now we're actually you and I's at a different facility. We're not on campus right now. We're at a place called USA Mat Club. And so I go in and help with this kids club. That's what it's called. And one of the things I preach to some of the parents and the kids, I'm like, go do as much as you want. Like when it's wrestling season, it's wrestling season. But outside of that, obviously come in. I'd love to have you in here and like helping out. But if you're gonna be playing baseball, football, you got a couple kids that do like track and some of them do like jujitsu and stuff like that. I'm like, go do it. I just think that the overall development of the kids I just think it's very rewarding in the end. And I know for me, that was one of the separators when it came to college is I didn't have as much, let's say, wrestling experience as some of my like peers and like competitors. But I was able to get to kind of their level, and then like there's more to the ceiling, the ceiling, so to speak, and not that there was a like ceiling or anything like that, but I just felt like there was like I wanted to learn more, I guess, because I wasn't around wrestling all the time. So that's just the hunger, so to speak, and like switching to wrestling full time. I didn't do wrestling full time until I got to college, and the growth. It took a while. Don't get me wrong, it took a while, but it the jump made from my first couple of years to my last couple of years was tremendous. I mean, I actually this is kind of funny. My my second year, so my redshirt freshman, so not my freshman year, but not my true. My second year, I was starting, and I was losing all the time, all the duels.
You
I
were
won
one
one
and
duel.
nine in dual meets.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. I should have been two. I should have been 2-8, but I thought I had a match one, and then the kid had riding time or something, or I thought I had riding time, but he erased it with a takedown at the end. Then I shot a shot in overtime and like got taken down in 2 seconds. It was embarrassing, but it was not very good product. The fight was there. Don't get me wrong, the fight was there, but the product wasn't very good. And the next year it was like a 180, like dang, and to the point where after a duel in West Gym, some fan came up to me. He goes, Drew, I'm not trying to be rude, but what happened, man? Like you sucked last year. Like what's going? I was just like, what? And I was like, I don't know. I just kept working. That's all, really.
Well,
But
that's one of
that's
the questions I have, Drew,
yeah,
is you talk about that redshirt season, you were under 500, 1 and 9 in duels. And then the next year, you are an All-American. You were a 12 seed. I believe that was in 2017. Like,
yep,
what did happen? I mean, that's a pretty substantial shift.
yeah. I think one of the big things was just mad experience at the college level, and then just consistent work. Um, I mean, in what's that end of when I went to the conference because I went to the conference tournament that freshman year, that redshirt freshman year, and my first round matchup was actually Jack Deckow, the Old Dominion guy. He was returning All American, And don't, I mean, he had a lot of close matches, but I mean, it was a 3-2 match. He beat me. And then I got sent to the backside, and all the guys that beat me in those duels, I was beating. And then what was it? Would have been the Conti semis. I'm wrestling Willie Miklas, who's a good friend. And I'm up late. Like there's like a minute left in the third. And I think I'm going to like mat return him. I drop to like a double leg, try to mat return him out of bounds. Chin whip pin me to send me into the fifth place match, which I won. And then I had an opportunity to make it to nationals with below 500 record. Um, with against the guy's the Buffalo guy, Joe Areola, I think was his name. And I lost in like the triple overtime or something like that to go to nationals that year, which would have meant, I mean, it was a shot in the dark. No one probably saw that coming, but it was that whole year it was such a trial and error and learning and like just getting the experience, and then the confidence I think was always there. Um, this is kind of funny. I had a delusional confidence, I would say. And that's what I try to tell people is that it's just like, it's delusional to a point where I'm not going to like say some unrealistic things, but I thought a certain way. I thought a certain way of myself. And maybe some of that was just expectations. But I was wrestling Hayden Zilmer, right? It was at 84, and he was number 4 ranked guy at the time. And we're at NDSU. And at this time, so I was in a position battle at 174. So I was wrestling like I was weighing in at 74 and wrestling 84 against these guys. And so I think I think at that point I was still weighing in at 74. Eventually I just weighed in at 84. But I went out, got the first takedown. Okay. And then I think that woke him up probably. And then he ended up teching me by the third period. All right. But then afterwards, I'm down in the tunnel cooling down or wherever they're at. And I'm talking to one of my coaches. I'm like, God, he's so lucky. He's so lucky. I'm a freshman, that I'm undersized, and that was kind of my thought process, like a little delusional. I mean, you could say maybe making excuses for yourself, but it wasn't like it was like in my head, I'm like, I'm right there because I can take him down. If I can take him down, that means I can beat him. But it was like, I just need I'm like, I need to get stronger. I need to get bigger, and I need this experience. And that's eventually what started to happen.
You never won a high school state title. How would you describe your high school wrestling career?
I would say it was still good. I know you never got the title. I actually lost to one of my college teammates in the finals, Jacob Holschlaud, who ended up becoming an All-American for us as well. I lost in the finals to him, but yeah, I didn't qualify for state my freshman year, then got third, seventh, and then second in that order. But it wasn't like I joke around with the guys all the time on the team now, like just our athletes. I'm like, man, I should have been a 4-time state champ, teasing them and stuff like that. But then, it didn't go my way in high school. And maybe you can attribute that to, I wasn't full time, but I was still right there with the guys. I mean, I remember wrestling Kamal Bay at the Clash, and it's a close match into the third period before I got lat dropped, of course, and pinned. But just like little things like that, like I felt like, man, I could wrestle, and I had no idea who these kids were at the time because I really did not follow wrestling like that. I knew we'd watch the finals and like the Midlands. That's kind of all the college wrestling I had watched. Besides like high school when I was young. It wasn't that I wasn't interested in it, but just like watching it wasn't something I really watched. So I don't know, like in my head, I'm like, I was right there with these guys. I just wasn't beating them yet, but as like I was competing with them, like not in like I'm going out and just getting my butt kicked. It's like, and it's a scrap with some of these guys that are like nationally ranked.
What is your first recollection of meeting Doug Schwab?
Well, we got some old pictures where I went to a wrestling camp that he was at, but I don't remember that, to be honest. But I remember coming up to a dual meet. We came up. Our high school team was pretty good. We had a couple guys went to Iowa, a couple guys came to UNI, and we came on like an unofficial to watch a duel. And he came up, he'd come up and talk to us afterwards. I remember him just coming up and like it's very awkward at the time. He just came up, he's like started like grabbing my biceps. And I was like, all right, and he talks like that a little bit. But one of the things he said, because I think one of the things he liked is that because Randy Pugh was from right around where I'm from, and he had talked to some people from the area and asked about me. And one of the things, like some of the people I would say maybe I had like trusted or like looked up to a little bit, they had said like he's good, but he's not a Division I wrestler. Kind of that was their description of me. And then that's they told when Randy asked, that's what their explanation was of me. And he relayed it to Doug, obviously, and Doug kind of like when the first interaction we had, I remember him saying like, like giggling at that and like kind of saying that. But yeah, that was like our first interaction, and then I went on a visit in like April, I think it was right before prom. I went on my official visit to UNI, and then signed shortly thereafter as a walk-on or referred walk-on or preferred walk-on. That's probably the term. But so yeah.
What other places did you go on visits? Any place else?
Northern Illinois, I went on a visit there. That was as far as Division I, that was it. Otherwise, it was like Simpson College, Coe College, and I went to like Northwest Missouri State to look at like football. So that, yeah, as far as Division I, UNI and NIU, right? It's commonly messed up on some of the stuff that people mess it up. But yeah, two different schools. So they were roughly the same, like 2.5 hours from Burlington. So
I say it every podcast, Drew. The stories just fascinate me. I mean, your story fascinates me. I mean, you're getting hammered. You're getting hammered as a redshirt freshman. We talked about it. You're 1-9. You're under 500. You find a way to become an All-American. And what fascinates me, and I wish I could just like get inside your head during that time. What do you recall about your lowest days and like the perseverance? Like, how did you do it?
I would just I would say there's like just a chip on my shoulder. And like and that's like part of it was too is like, man, coming to school, like I was a walk on. And so like, and there, it wasn't, and it's not like it was held against you or anything but like that, but it's almost like you got to earn your stripes. That was my kind of like mindset. You got to earn your stripes, and prove that you belong, and in the back of my head, that's what it constantly was. Like, I feel that I should be here and I want to keep proving it and, put my head down and just work, right. Earn the respect. Not that there wasn't, a lack of respect or anything like that, but that was like in my head, that's what it was. Just do that, just chip away kind of thing. Cause as far like, I was never on any like big board or anything like that. I dropped the baby bottle, but, so that, I mean, just kind of like the underdog mentality, I guess you could say. But that's where I said I wore a big chip on my shoulders, and there was one of the things that I would say aggravated me is, and I wasn't the only walk on the team, and I had it easier. We actually had a guy he was a true walk on, and this is a really cool story that doesn't get told. I was able to. We've been doing history lessons ever since West Gym got taken down. We had a hall that's full of history, and so now what we're doing as a staff is like once a week where you bring someone up.
And those are awesome. Those are awesome. I love watching those.
So one of the ones I talked about was Darren Eads, who is a guy like most people would never hear about, but his story's awesome because he was a true walk-on. He wanted to be on the team so badly that he would wait around till our practices got over. Mats are sweaty and everything in West Gym. And he would just come in for like an hour afterwards and just do like stance and motion by himself every single day for a year. Right. And eventually, you just look at it and you're like, what the heck is this guy doing? But, and it shows how badly he wants to be there. And he it, and he it's he's not even for sure that he's going to make the team or like be given a chance. It didn't matter. He still showed up, and he was willing to do all that, sacrifice his own time with no one there. Um, and he earned his way on the team, and earned the respect of everybody. So like that, I mean, I would call that's like a true walk on. And as a walk on myself, like one of the things that you said like bugged me so much was you get guys. Sometimes you recruit guys, and they they're just kind of you saw they want to just wear the jersey. We don't really doesn't really happen as much anymore. I think our culture's it's just been evolving the whole time. But you get guys that just want like the jersey, or they want to wear the shirt, they want the singlet, they want like I'm a UNI wrestler, okay, and that never like that never sat well with me, right? They didn't do the work, and that was something I always tried to bring up to guys like every year was man, like it's not a slam on a walk on or anything like that. It's like this guy earned his way on the team, and you guys just don't. You guys are getting scholarship at times. Some of these guys were, and it's like you're not even like working hard or you're not doing the right things. And it's like I don't know. It was one of those things that used to bug me so much, um, because there's a lot of pride. I think there's a ton of pride in that, and it just it not that it's not earned for a guy that's on scholarship. It's still earned, but man, you read for a guy like Darren Eads, man, nothing was guaranteed as far as a spot on the roster, and he stuck to it and earned his stripes.
Your redshirt sophomore year, you are an All-American, placed seventh. You were a 12 seed. That was 2017. What do you remember from that run, and ultimately thoughts on being on the podium, being an All-American? It's a really big deal.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was when they had like the random pigtails, if you remember that. And I didn't have the pigtail, but I had the winner of the pigtail coming into me, and it ended up being Bobby Steveson. So I wrestled him first, and then I had Zach Zavatsky out of Virginia Tech after that. And Zavatsky, I wrestled him that first year. We're the same age. And we were at Virginia Tech. He beat the absolute crap out of me, like majored me, beat me
DC
up.
top.
Yeah, and that was like one of those matches. Like I just, it's like I know I'm getting better, and like this is one of the matches I want to get back. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like these guys beat the crap out of me, and now like I'm right. Like I know my skills have caught up. The confidence is always there, and that ended up being like the upset. He's a 5 seed. That was the upset win that sent me into the quarters. And then I wrestled Nolan Boyd, and if we were in the center of the mat, I probably would have pinned him. I hit a high flyer on him. He went up 4-0 on me. Or, he took me down and put me to my back, and then he shot in again. I think I never hit a high flyer in my life. It's like this, like the national tournament, like the spark of it's crazy there, and hit a high flyer, and they kept showing it on the big board afterwards, and we ended up kind of going out of bounds, but no, I got 4. So he was up 6-0, and then I hit that, and it's 6-4. He ended up beating me, but I'm telling you, if we were in the center, and I was choking the crap out of him trying to stay in bounds, and he's such a nice guy too. But then so lost that match, get sent into the blood rounds, and I wrestle Mike Machiavello, who's a good friend now too. We've become friends, and so that was like our blood round match. I mean, he's a national champion the next year. And that was like a 1-point match. I'll tell you what, this is crazy. There was like and he'll say the same thing. There was like an inadvertent whistle that happened in this match, and we both stop, and then like nothing happens in the match, and we go back to wrestling. But I started a little bit sooner and back to wrestling, and ended up finishing the takedown because I was like on the legs, and that ended up being the difference. So it's kind of messed up, I guess. But so I had that, and then I wrestled Miles Martin the next match, and he took me down with like 30 seconds left to win that. And then I wrestled Nate Jackson for 7th and beat him. So I mean, it's pretty stout bracket. But man, that was such a cool moment, I would say, in my career. It was like I don't know. I just felt so good about it. It was once you win that blood round, you're just so like obviously you want to make the semis, get it guaranteed, or you want to make the finals, you want to win. Um, but when you've never been an All-American and you get to accomplish that, it's such a cool feeling because really on any given day, think of how many guys don't become All-Americans that are I had teammates that were capable and should have been All-Americans. And they just in March or that tournament, it just wasn't their tournament. And it has nothing to do with lack of ability or anything like that. It just wasn't their weekend at times, right? Or that maybe they got injured or whatever it was. So like it's pretty hard to get that that title beside your name. And that was such a cool thing. And then there's pictures of like my mom and dad like up in the stands crying. And that was we're in the nosebleeds. Now we get the lower bowl now because we're pretty consistent. But that was when we were in the nosebleeds. So I mean they got binoculars and then fogging them up with tears watching. So that was really cool in that moment. And then Max Thompson, he was an All-American that year too. So it was cool to share that with him. But I know like one of the harder things, and I think like the last couple of years, Parker's probably been feeling this a little bit, where it's like you feel great, but when your teammates aren't there with you, like becoming All-Americans in the finals, winning, man, it's just like it doesn't feel as good as it could, and I think part of that's just the culture we've created too, or that Doug's created, is that it's such a family, and when it's just like you or just one other teammate, like you're happy for each other, but then it's like, then these are the guys, I go to war with every day in the room, and they're down, and it weighs on you a little bit because you want them to feel the same thing.
It's funny you bring that up, Drew, because I was thinking about this about a week ago, and I just wrestled in high school. I didn't wrestle in college, but even I've been out of high school 30 some years, and I took second my senior year, was cutting a little bit of weight, and there's a guy that used to run with me all the time. Yeah. I mean, this guy, I'll do anything for him. It's 30 some years ago.
Yeah.
Because what I've really come to realize in this sport is one of the positives about the sport, and this is a situation where both things can be right. Okay. Wrestling's an individual sport. It's you. There's nobody to blame. Like, that's all true.
Yes.
But the older I get, the more I think to myself, you know what? This is the biggest team sport there is.
Oh yeah. It takes a freaking village to get through some of the stuff. Just think of like how many like down nights or like down times you have. And you can lean on some guys to just pick you up and like just be there for you. And sometimes it's just like not even no words, it's just like you got a guy that's running with you. It's just like an act. He could say nothing the whole time, or maybe an encouraging word, but to have like someone just helping hold you accountable or just helping pick you up is pretty cool.
You won a national title, you'll be in the history books forever. People will always remember Drew Foster. It'll never be taken away from you. Let me ask you this, Drew. Your name's on the wall.
Was
on the wall. Who are some people that should be on that wall with you? Who are some of the most impactful teammates you've had that nobody will probably ever really know, but you'll never forget?
Oh man, I had a string of them. I mean, when I first got to school, it was Cooper Moore. I think of a guy like Blaze Cabell, who he got his senior year taken away because he got mumps right before the national tournament. And that's a guy, if he doesn't win a national title, he's for sure an All-American in my books, especially that year. And that got yanked from him. I go back to high school even, but I mean, as far as college, I mean, you got Taylor Lujan, who was a training partner all the time, Jacob Holschlag, Bryce Steyer. I think of a guy like Josh Alber, who, I mean, really, he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time to watch. All right. I remember being at a tournament in high school in Illinois, all right, which it was right across the river for where Burlington is. And they paused the tournament to talk about him and Jared Cortez wrestling at a tournament. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, who are these guys? Like, why? Like, let's go. And then I ended up being teammates with him. He's such a good guy. And he was so fun to watch. But a guy like him, Max Thompson, Jacob Schwarm, Randy Pugh as a coach, Doug Schwab, other guys, Cruz, Roper, B-Rob, and there's so many pieces. I was just talking to the guys today about I had a warm-up partner named Tyler Hoffman, He's a two-time JUCO champ. He didn't end up finishing at UNI, but my sophomore year, he was the guy that we warmed up like he was my warm-up guy. I was telling these guys like some days I was hurting so bad trying to get down to weight before duels or tournament, and he could tell I was hurting, and he would just start taking reps and just where I could just be like a noodle and just be like, just keep me moving, kind of thing. Um, and there's a ton of guys that aren't mentioned that are part of that. I think like an Austin Yant was a young guy that was coming around when I was in my senior year as like a warm up guy and like just a good partner to have. And really, it's just there's guys before I was even in school that helped pave the way. And I think of a guy like Dylan Peters, who he was a guy. I mean, he would never say like a curse word kind of guy. But when you first come in, you're like, how do you cut weight the right way? How do you do things? Like what do I need to do for a workout to get down to weight? And you just kind of like look at it like an older guy and try to like follow along. And I remember just like, what's he doing? I'm gonna kind of like try to do what he's doing real quick. Um, so that was, I mean, then freaking some of my best friends, even like JJ, he's a heavyweight. Seth, I mean, there were so many guys. There's so many stories, so much. And I think one of my quotes that I had after the national tournament, and this is cool because someone made a poster of it, and I remember our trainer at the time, he just plastered it on his on one of his drawers, and it says, "This is bigger than me. This is the Panther train." And one of the things our group, we had a really good team, I would say. We just never all clicked at the same time. When I was going through at UNI as an athlete, and one of the things we always talked about is like one of us is going to win and be Doug's first national champion. We didn't know who it was going to be, but we probably had like 6 or 7 guys that we would not be surprised would have done it. And it happened to be me. And one of the coolest pictures taken afterwards is I'm huddled up with all the qualifiers. Everyone that was there was just huddled up around me. I remember Josh Albert. He ran onto the floor, and there's a picture of him with how your family member get the first 4 seats. He's right there with all my family right there, like my mom, dad, brother, uncle, and there's Josh, like he's part of the family, jumping up and down. And so that's pretty cool. And I think I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but that was I remember the plane ride back from Pittsburgh, and I don't remember the match for shit, really. I don't really remember the moment a ton. It's like I blacked out. I had to like watch it if I wanted to remember it. I remember little bits and pieces of it. But what I remember is like the feeling that I felt. Like I get on Facebook, I get on Twitter, I get all these text messages, and people, like some of these videos are people crying that I've known since I was little, crying at their TV because I had won. And like they were feeling like a certain pride and joy. And that, just I think the way that people felt from that, I think was one of the most rewarding things. And it made me feel pretty good about myself, and like made me feel like I've had like an impact in some way, even though these people all had an impact in my life. There's a little piece of me that's stuck with them. And it's genuine, it's not like the person I've never talked to, and since kindergarten they're, and they're like, "Oh, it's my boy. It's not that," like that happened too. But it was a genuine stuff. And I think that was the coolest thing. Even like my old teammates, alumni like Tony Davis reaching out to me, who I hadn't met until I think I met him probably officially like 3 years ago. And he's a hilarious guy. He's good energy. He's hilarious. But just the pride and the way that just people felt made me feel really good about that. I think that was a bigger thing, honestly, than the arm getting raised. And it was, yeah.
Do you remember, Drew, being in the tunnel? I mean, I always think it's to be in the tunnel, you got 20 guys, they're going to wrestle for a Division I national title. I basically call it being a unicorn because it's
Yeah.
that to get to that stage, it's unicorn stuff. Do you remember like what you were like to remember before you ran out there, like final conversations with Doug or the coaching staff, and maybe just sucking in a cup, taking in the moment a little bit? What do you remember from that time?
I don't remember a ton. I just know that I tried to keep it as on cue as possible. I kept it in routine. I had my pre-match routine. And I think Big 12 does a really good job at kind of creating that atmosphere actually. And I was able to have two Big 12 tournaments where it's like it's at the BOK. And Nationals was held there a couple of years ago, but they kind of present it in that way. So you're in the tunnel, you get the smoke, or so like I felt that a little bit. Not on as big of a scale, I mean, and not as many Okie State fans. But I would say like one of the things, and just the self-talk before matches is like every match, because I think people say they don't get nervous. I think everyone gets like you get anxiety, you get a little bit anxious, you get the nerves come in, and like how do you manage them? And a lot of it was just like self-talk, meaning like I look back, I'm like, look at who my training partners are, look at all the work I've put in. And it's like every big moment, every match, dang near they try to creep in, and it's just like put the blockers on. And just the way I talked to myself was like, I'm training with the best guys in the country, right? From Holschlag to Lujan, to Steyer, and I got some of the best coaches in the country. And the work I put in, I've been working so hard, and that was like it just constant reinforcement of that. And then I would always try to keep it light and joke around was the other thing. So if you ever saw me pre-match, you're gonna see me probably like I'm locked in, but I'm like joking around and laughing. I might pop a joke. I remember actually this is kind of messed up a little. That was the year that Siriano fixed his headgear.
Yes.
Okay, and we're sitting back, and we got like this is when like you had to fight for your spots at nationals for your camps, right? So like you'd send someone in early and down in the tunnels, and it was scavenge as much seats as you can get, find your area, set it up. You got one guy for it, and so there's like at I don't know 5 in the morning. As soon as you can get down in there, you got like each team kind of has one guy that they designate to go do that. That's on staff, right? And for whatever reason, we had like a sofa where we were sitting, but we were like right on a corner. So it's like you come in, here's a corner, and then there's another big space. And I remember right after that, Esposito comes up. He's at Okie State at the time. He's like, "Don't let those effing refs screw you over." And so I was like, I didn't watch the match, so I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And he's like, don't listen to that, And then I was able to watch some of the reactions and some of the like got on like Twitter and saw some of the stuff. But yeah, I keep it pretty light, and then just like a whole bunch of positive reinforcement in my head. I know one thing that I'd always do is after I was done warming up, I'd try to lay down and nap because my heart would really start racing, right? Because you think of every single outcome that could ever possibly happen. And I would just try to slow everything down, put on some just like feel good music, whatever that was. That bring
What
back good.
was it? What was some of the feel good music
I
you
mean,
listened to?
it was anything from like a Meek Mill to a Taylor Swift to Joe Diffie. I mean, just man,
Okay.
just like John Deere Green was like one of our team like funny songs that we had a guy that karaoke'd it, and it like just like those kind of memories just like calms you down and like brings you back to a different place. Makes it not seem so big where you're at. So those were like little things that I would do to just like slow my breathing down, and we used to do a lot of practice with that with Duke. Duke used to Mark Schwab was like one of his big things, like lay down, like focus, lock it, and like breathe, focus on your breathing. That was like a big thing. And Doug still has the guys do it now. But like those, like, man, just taking pieces from everything you learned along the way and just making it your own in your preparation is, I mean, that's what I would do. I'd keep it, try to be as calm as possible and then stay as light. So yeah, that's just kind of how I did. And there's a lot of positive reinforcement in my head talking over and over. Because I mean, I think everyone faces like a little bit like something creeps in, and and how do you deal with it? And I know some people look to like their faith at times. And that's just how I just look to my like the work that was put in, and a lot of trust in it.
Did you choose your walkout song in 2019?
Yes, because we're in Pittsburgh, so I had Wiz Khalifa, who's from Pittsburgh, and Medicated was the song. I gave him two options though, to be fair. But that song was one of my walkout songs. It was actually my sophomore year. I didn't lose a duel, or at least at home.
Okay.
I didn't lose a duel. So and that was like that's one of those feel good songs to me. Like sometimes I turn it on my walk to class and I'm like amped up to go to class, and it's like this is weird. But um that was that's just like even now. So when I hear it now, I get like chills.
I
Like
bet.
it's just like I get like, my hair start sticking up on the back of my neck and I'm like I should get amped up and um so yeah. And I'm always like I try to give these guys good options too. Like, we got guys hopefully multiple making the finals this year. I'm like, man, you guys are in Philly, so that's like Meek Mill. They got to come and there's a Meek Mill song that the team likes that's not really well known, I would say. So hopefully one of these guys, they make it and they can use that as a walkout. We'll see. But I don't know. I think I thought into that too much, but that was yeah. I remember I did call one of my buddies right after the semis and like, dude, these are my options I got. Like, what do you think? He is a music head too, so
Speaking of music, Drew, what's the last like good concert you've been to?
oh shoot. What was it? Pitbull.
Nice.
He came to the Quad Cities. My wife's from the Quad Cities, and they have like a really big the Mississippi Valley Fair. It's like a big thing. They get some big talents, and he came there, and that was a fun time. So yeah, Pitbull was the last, and we're in like a pit, jamming out to some Pitbull.
How did you meet your wife?
We met in college. She was a soccer player. So we'd met in college and yeah, we got married in August in 23, and then we just had our first child this November, so November 25th. So she's about 2.5 months now, and man, she's her neck's almost all standing up by itself. Man, my world's changed. I'll say that it's in a good way. It's pretty cool. Parenting's pretty cool. It's everyone tries to give you advice, and it's just like you just kind of like you take the advice, but you got to figure it out yourself. And I think I kind of like that a little bit. I know our first night we were in the hospital, we got 20 minutes of sleep. Just so worrisome, and now it's just like we're like dying to be able to like just be like, come on, get to bed. All right. And they're like, we're both laying in bed and she still lays next to our bed right now. And you hear the little sounds. You're like hoping I'm hoping she gets up and, fixes the problem. She's hoping I do it. Uh, but no, it's good. My wife's awesome. And she's
What's her daughter's name?
Colby Jean Foster.
How would you describe, Drew, the first moments you held on to her?
Oh, it was wild. I mean, uh, it it I'm surprised that I'm not gonna fumble, I'm not gonna fumble a baby, but so she had to get a C-section, and maybe this TMI, she had to get a C-section. And so, I'm sitting by her face and they got this, she said I was gonna pass out if I saw what was happening. All right. I ended up peeking over eventually and I did not pass out, but so they got the curtain up and you just hear the doctors go, oh, she's delivering herself, like she's jumping out of the womb, and they're like, all right, Dad. I'm like, all right, okay, here we go. And then it was like me doing everything. And what was crazy is I from that point on, I held her the whole time until we got back into the room. So I like walked her through the hospital back to our room, and it was pretty cool. I cut like they already cut the umbilical cord, and then I cut like a different part of it. That was probably the most nerve-wracking part of it because I'm like I'm I'm hurting her. It's like the first thing she's crying, and then uh but man, I'm not saying I feel like a professional parent by any means now, but I feel so much better as a parent than what I felt about 2 months ago. Oh my
That's
gosh, that
awesome.
was yeah. So it's good, and man, she comes into the room, and it's cool to see how the guys interact with her, and other coaches and stuff. And I'll tell you what, Pew is a softie for her. he'll go up to her, he'd beeline to her every time he sees her. So like right now, if someone ends up holding her, I try to get as many pictures. I was never like someone that took a lot of pictures, but now I'm like finding myself like, how many pictures can I get? Just to cherish some memories, really. Um, so it's awesome. It's
What
it's hard
what's
to
your
beat.
wife's name?
Jamie.
Jamie. So I'll just ask you this because Valentine's Day is coming up. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
you rough and tough wrestlers, like, what's the most romantic thing you've ever done for your wife?
the most romantic thing. She's over in this other room looking at me laughing. Um, as far as like a Valentine's Day thing, we're pretty simple. But the most romantic thing, gosh, I used to
See
do
what
like a
kind of
little
game you
like,
got here.
huh?
I
So
go, I want
like,
to see what kind of game you got here.
what? Well, I mean, we've gone on a couple nice little like date nights is nice. Little cute letters, I
There you
guess,
go.
and some gifts, like some handwritten notes. Um, I don't know.
Well, that's
I
pretty
know.
good. Those handwritten notes are, I mean, those go
Yeah,
a long ways. They really do.
yeah. I know she gets a lot of massages. I'm
Okay.
like basically a professional masseuse. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what she would deem the best thing. But I mean, I can always one up it, I guess.
There you go.
I can one up it, whatever it is.
What is the most impactful? Sure, a tough question. I'll even give you, one or two, because I told you before we went on, I could listen to Doug Schwab talk for days. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
something about, I love listening to him. What is there a conversation you've had that's been the most impactful? Maybe one or two that you'll never forget that just for whatever reason at that particular time was huge for you?
Mm, man, I'd have to really think on this. I'm trying to think about like everyone from each point of my life. I know, gosh dang, I think as far as like in a wrestling uh point of view, one of the things like after I'd become an All-American that Doug had came up and talked to me about was like basically like, and it wasn't in a negative light. It was just be like there's more than just being an All-American. He's like, man, you got seventh place. You know how many more what I want spots there are to climb. Like one of those like there's more to it. Don't be satisfied with that. I think that was huge. As far as just like flipping a mindset, I know um I had like a my junior year wasn't like the like I had a good year, but it wasn't, I didn't finish as an All-American, right? So it's like that's what's crazy is you like deem it on like, oh, you didn't get the finish you wanted, but it was still a good year. Um, but after that, we Jim Miller, he's around the program quite a bit. Mill Boy is what he goes by. He's a
Yep. Oh, he's
um,
great.
yes, and we used to have like go meet with and have coffee with him and Pew, like a handful of us. And one of the things he would talk about was just like controlling your effort and then like just making it real, make practice real. And his day at the time was like bring Pittsburgh into the practice room. Um, I think that was a good thing. I would say we had this slogan, and I think this is something to really live by. And it used to be, posted right outside of our locker room and said, "How you do anything is how you do everything." And man, when I go to camps and stuff, that's something I try to tell these kids. No matter what, like your relationships, your school, okay, your wrestling, how you do any of it, right? How you are with your relationships, like your parents, how you talk to them, right? How do you interact with them, right? Are you giving them your full attention, your effort, or are you on your phone? Your school, like, are you locked into that? And it all translates. So if you take away like the way you act, right? So I think of like maybe you got like growing up, you got this kid that he's like they're a world class wrestler, crazy good. But what they're doing outside of that isn't lining up. Like how you do everything, anything is how you do everything, right? So it's not lining up. It's not lining up, but what catches up to you. All right. So I think just the way you live should be pretty well rounded. right? Whether you're growing in your faith, your social life, you're in the classroom, and then obviously on the mat or whatever, it could be in the workplace. And I don't know. I just think no matter what you're doing, you want to give your full focus, effort. And it's hard at times, right? And there's days where it's like, gosh dang it, and maybe you question yourself and like, maybe I didn't. But I think your awareness in that is huge. But I think that's like a little motto. And I don't know who came up with it. Um, but I think that was it's something to live by, really is. And then, I mean, obviously, how do you interpret it? But that'd be my interpretation of that.
What's something, Drew, within wrestling that you're most passionate about? Like, what's something, if people are talking wrestling, what's something that'll get you going, a particular topic that you're really interested in and get fun?
Well, right now it's like just the top wrestling. And I know people are trying to go like freestyle. Freestyle is the answer. I'm not. I love folk style. And the thing is, I love wrestling on my feet. I love takedowns. I like most of my matches. I got the first takedown, even when it came to freestyle and stuff. Um, I like to think of myself as like an explosive, fast, like quick wrestler. But just the top wrestling, especially now with sometimes with a 3-point takedown, is like some guys, and like even on our team now, like some guys that just the urgency to ride isn't there. And I think that's one of my biggest like pet peeves. I'm like, gosh dang, what happens when you're at the national tournament and you just need to ride someone, or you get to the ride outs or something, like you need to ride someone. Uh, and I think it's a skill. Like not everyone can ride, and there's stall rides, but I don't know. I think that's one of those things, or I think it's an important thing, like mat returns, right? Being able to ride, um, and working for turns. And I know, like in the new rules, like the emphasis is right. If you're not working on top, they're going to call you for stalling. Like, we'll just keep working. And I think that's one of the pet peeves. I think a little bit of the rules, some of the situations is it changes. It varies by like perspective of the rule or like of the situation. Um, like the stall call on the edge in some instances is so inconsistent at times, and I don't think it's anything. It's nothing to do with the refs, really. It's just the interpretation of the rule, and it's so it's a fine line. Like in freestyle now, they're talking about like you get to the edge, you can't just like drop now. They're gonna caution you, right? And now like in folk style, you take someone all the way to the edge, and they just try to drop down and like act like it's action. Um, so there's I don't know. There's tons of things that can fix it. I don't know. I think folk style wrestling is pretty awesome. Um, I don't know. It's hard to beat. Could you fine tune it? Yeah, but I mean, it's a product that's been around for a long time, and people get behind it. There's so much, and I think a lot of it too is like there's college teams with it, and that's probably why there's not as big a crowds at international, right? Especially like in the U.S. is like it's hard. It's harder to get behind an individual than it is like a program, and it's like the level of wrestling is like so much higher at these freestyle tournaments. I think in Croatia this weekend, it's like someone like showed a picture of like the crowd, and I mean there's zero people. It looks like, which is unfortunate. But I just think it's easier to get behind a program, right? Like people put a lot of pride in, like in Iowa here, like where I'm from, it's an hour from Iowa City, and so back home, everyone's like, and this was like one of my things. Like I wasn't a big fan of Iowa eventually. I mean, I was growing up, and then it like turned into like I don't know about this. Um, but like so many people, like some of my buddies, they're like diehard Hawkeyes. I'm like, gosh, dang you guys, and like watch UNI wrestling, and like it's you. But it's like you're so tied to a university, and in this state for the most part, it's Iowa State and Iowa. And I think what's awesome is we're growing a brand and a culture that people are like getting attached to. They love it, and I think it starts with Doug and what he started. Shoot, I don't know how many years ago it was. I don't know. Maybe he got here in '09 or 10, something like
It's been
that.
a minute.
Yeah. So what he's created is something people love and enjoy. And I think it's just because he's himself, right? And he's growing some great young men, right? Some like parents can hand off and like feel good that even if something happened to them, because there's so many guys I've seen that whether they don't deserve to still get a second chance or a third chance, Doug has such a big heart that he gives them that because he wants them to succeed. I think Nick Saban, he has this quote. He's talking about I don't know who he's talking about. He's like he had a receiver. Maybe it was the one of the Falcons old receivers like Sanu or something. I don't know who it was. He's like he got in trouble for like a DUI or something like that, and everyone was mad because they let like he's like he made him like work back on the team and like he didn't like take his scholarship and like just throw him to the curb. He's like, what would you want me to just like throw him out and then now he's like spiraling out of control, or do you want me to like try to set him up for his future? So like that's part of his job. And I think that's what Doug is like, where it's like even if guys make mistakes, he's trying to correct them and help them and like guide them to become better men. And it's coming to the point where it's like the guys are holding each other accountable. They're not even letting those kind of things come up. And it's really cool to see. Just man, I mean, and even guys that like get injured and in other programs, maybe they get forgotten about. Okay, and now with the opt in, opt out, they're dropping rosters spots. Maybe those are the guys, they don't even try to figure out a way for them. And which I think is going to happen. Unfortunately, they're not even try to use like an RTC or something and try to help them to keep them around and figure out an option. They're just gonna be all right. Sorry, you're bottom of our depth chart. You're injured last year. See ya. And that's one of the things we talk about is if that were to happen at UNI, we'd figure it out. Like there's too much loyalty and love to take care of these kids that their parents entrusted in us that we would, you couldn't, man, Doug would give up his home. And I've seen him give up his home to make sure someone's taken care of, to make sure they're all right. And, man, it bleeds through. And I think the men that leave the program, gosh, it's really cool. And it's really a culture. It's a brotherhood, a family. People talk about it. But until you've been somewhere else and then you come, it's hard to explain, or until you've been around something else and then you see it. And I'm not saying other programs don't have that. I don't know what other programs have or don't have. But I know what we have. And I don't, I've seen some instances where that kind of stuff doesn't happen. What happens here, and I think people actually take notice of that. So, and that's kudos to Doug and what he's created. I'm just thankful to be part of it. It's really awesome.
I stole this, or I'm going to steal this. I saw this on another podcast, I think yesterday. I wish I didn't even pay attention to what it was. I'm like, I'm going to steal that. I think it was called two-word advice. So I'll let you think about this a little bit.
Two-word advice.
If you had to give advice to somebody in life, in wrestling, it could be anything. 2 words. What 2 words what would be your 2-word advice to somebody?
Gosh dang it. Not that. Those aren't the 2 words. Gosh dang it. Gosh dang it. Oh man. 2 words. I mean, I think trust would be one of them. Trust. And what you put your trust into, right? Yourself, into your faith, into the people around you, into your work.
Or trust. Even back-to-back words, Drew. Because mine, like, and you're the first guy that I've talked this question for, because I just saw this. And it got me thinking what mine is. Like, and I'm getting older, maybe getting crabby. but my kind of 2-word advice to somebody might be nobody cares. That was the first thing that came to mind with me was nobody cares.
That's good. I would say, trust and gosh dang. That's a good one. Trust and effort, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Trust and effort. I don't know. I think I just look back to like you can put effort in so many ways, and I don't know. I just think of some people like and probably it's a generation thing too. Like some of the younger generation, the effort isn't always there. And what's that, stem from? I don't know. But like, I don't know if it's interest or whatever it is, but I think effort can go a long ways and like, or show up. Show up could be a good one when you
I
show up for
like that one.
people.
If I could go three words, do the hard. That'd be
Yeah.
another one. Like do the hard.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a good one. I'd be interested to see what people come up with because
You're
right,
the
it's
first
all
guy.
going to be
You're the
like,
first guy that got that question. But every
yeah,
podcast I do now, it's going to be asked because I just
yeah,
like it. It's just a good, puts you on the spot a little bit. But text me if you think of anything else.
yeah. I will.
I'll leave you with
That's
this one, Drew. Final question for you.
yeah.
If you were traveling from, Cedar Falls in a vehicle out to Los Angeles, it's you. You get to pick three people, dead or alive, that you've never met. Got to be three people you've never met. Who are you taking on that trip?
Gosh, this is tough. Three people or two people or
Three. You get three,
three.
dead or alive,
Dead or
that, you,
alive.
that you've never met.
Jeez, man, because they're like, you think like JFK or someone like
You
that, where
go.
it's like you want
This
to
is
know some
you get to take
answers.
whoever you want. Anybody.
Yeah, you want to know some answers, but then you think of a guy mm, like a Tom Brady. Although on the he's growing on the broadcast. I don't know how he was a little dry at first on his broadcasting or commentating. So I don't know. Hopefully he wouldn't be like that in a car ride. Gosh dang. So I want to ask a lot of questions, and I want someone older too because I go on. We got a guy that he does the flow broadcast with Millboy. His name's Jeff Bradley. He goes by Juice, and a
Yeah.
lot of times me and him go like we'll road trip together, and man, I enjoy talking to him and like hearing like stories and stuff like that. But hmm, I don't know, dead or alive. Or I could go like Kobe. Kobe. I would go maybe Kobe. Kobe for one. Mm, Kobe for one. This is too dang hard. Like I feel like there's so many people that I could choose. Like, what do I want to talk about? Who? I feel like, I mean, unless he'd listen like maybe like I think he'd listen to good music too, at least so like good background music. Kobe. Oh, maybe I do go JFK. I want to know some stuff. I want to find some stuff out. I think he knew some stuff. And one more person that I don't know. Both those people are dead. I don't want. Gosh damn. Mm, no, not. My wife says Tupac. I said no, no. Who is it? You saw the person that did it, didn't you? Um, hmm. I'm thinking, oh, Kanye West. That'd be the other person.
There you go. There you
Kanye.
go.
That'd be interesting. That would, that, yeah. Despite the Kanye we see today, he'd be my favorite artist as far as
Okay. Okay.
yes.
What's your
That's
favorite Kanye song? You got one?
uh growing up. I mean, Gold Digger was my favorite
Sure.
one.
Okay.
Now, hmm, I don't know. I think if you watch his Netflix doc, which is the first two episodes are good. The third one is he starts to go crazy. But the Through the Wire is a very likable song because his mouth is actually wired shut as he's like singing, rapping it because he got in a car accident. So he's like, and if you listen to it, you can kind of tell it's like, and his like lips are kind of
Really?
like, yes,
I mean, people can say what they want about Kanye. The guy is as talented as it gets.
Yeah,
Drips with talent.
he's very talented. He's just, yeah, he's, man, very interesting. I can't say I agree with some of the antics and stuff that goes on. But
He's
I like
talented.
yes,
And I
I like
like
his
his
music.
music too. I like his
Yes,
music.
especially his older music is, but yeah, so maybe those three. I'd probably end up changing. But yeah, JFK, Kobe, and Kanye. That'd be interesting. Just
I
because I
got
want to know
one.
some inside. Yeah,
I got one more for you. I just thought
yeah.
about this. I'll let you go after this. What was the coolest thing you got to experience by being a national champ?
Going to the White House, going to DC.
Tell me about
That
that.
so um that was just a really cool experience. So we got me and Randy P went out there, and Trump was in office at the time, and um Randy's like, he's a big Trump guy, so he was like super pumped. Um and we got the wrestlers got a very unique, like, exclusive experience compared to the other sports teams that were there.
Because he loves
Uh,
wrestling.
yes, and Jim Jordan is like his right hand man, so he was there, and then one of the governor, I can't think of his name. He's one of the Oklahoma. I think maybe he's a Senate guy, or the rep. I don't know, but he's like one of the guys. I actually, me and Randy saw a clip of him earlier this year. He was gonna fight somebody. He was on the tour and like giving us a tour and stuff. But we got to see the Capitol building, which really I thought was, and probably because we didn't get to go in and out of a ton of spots in the White House, but the Capitol building was really cool. They took us all around. Got to see a ton of things, and so we did that like the night before. A couple of us came early, so it was like, was it me, Makai, Yanni? Maybe it was just, yeah, I think it was just us and like our coaches that came with. Um, and then like the next day, and we had to go through like 5 different security checkpoints to get into the White House. Which makes the January 6th thing seem crazy. Just the amount of checkpoints we had to go through. I'm like, dude, you guys just checked all of our stuff. Like, we're going again. Like, okay, whatever. Um, and then I think that was less interesting because we kind of like had to sit there and wait. And then Trump came around, and then we got to go to the Oval Office, and he's like, "Oh, the wrestlers come early and stay after," kind of thing. And everyone else kind of like cycled through, and then we got to go to like the cabinet room, and like the whole time I'm like, right, is this like a replica place, or which one of these like hidden statues thing like pulls the door down and like we go to the real stuff, and the like Secret Service is there like, shut up. But that was really cool. And I remember like I was doing like to graduate, I had to finish with like student teaching. So at the time I was doing like student teaching and like training, because that was in like the fall of after I'd won when we went. And I was in like a school in middle school in Waterloo, and like a lot of the kids, like they didn't like Trump, and I'm not gonna like whoever the president, like they're the president, right? Like that they're running the country or whatever. I'm like, so they're like, why would you go like that? And I'm like, because when will I ever be able to do this again? That was my reasoning. And whether you're making a stand or whatnot, but like that was like one of my things. Like, if I wanted to make a stand on someone I didn't agree with, why would I not go talk to them? If that, like that goes to like, that's a whole different matter. Like, I don't like you, so I'm just not going to talk to you. We're not going to confront and try to like work out our differences. No, screw you, F you. We're not going to solve any problems, and it's like, my way's right, your way's wrong. It's like, that's one of my like conflict arguments. Is like, well, why would you not, like, where's the common ground? There's got to be a common ground
Sure.
somewhere. And then if there's not,
Absolutely.
at least you got the respect towards each other because you had a conversation, and you can at least respect each other and not like agree with each other. But I remember like that was like my lesson for the class that time. I'm like, it doesn't, and that's what I just said, like a little rant right here. I'm like, it doesn't matter your beliefs if you can, like, whether you agree with it or disagree. And I'm like, and this is a once in a lifetime. Like, when would I ever be able to go into the Oval Office in the cabinet room,
Yeah,
ever again in my
exactly.
life? Never. Never. I mean, I can go to Washington D.C. and maybe tour the Capitol and maybe get on a White House tour, but the exclusive man that he gave us like a whole bunch of stuff too. Um, it's like fan gear or whatever, which is kind of funny, um, but that was the coolest thing. I got to go to like our state capitol too, and they took me all the way. It was like, like all the coaches for the most part and our AD. We got into like the top part of the Capitol building and got to check that out. That was cool. And they'd like in Iowa when you win, they like sign. They call it like not like the day that it's not you don't get your own personal day, but they write it. I don't know. They write it in the parliament or something. I don't know what it's called. I'm not
Yeah.
terminology ain't my thing when it comes to that. But they made a whole big show and they like so I had to like sit up and like be honored in front of like everyone that's like that works in the Capitol and they're like in the courtroom there. And it's like, I mean, it's like 5 minutes. Maybe they like talk about it and congratulate, shake everybody's
Pretty
hand,
cool.
walk out. But yeah, it's pretty neat. Um, yeah, those were probably the coolest things. And then just, yeah, I don't know what else. Man, just a lot of opportunities or like, even like you said, like you got a cool story. Like, so like my story gets shared and like with my story being shared, I can share other people's stories. I think that's kind of cool. Just people along the way that have impacted me or, like that have like a cool story that gets light. And because I mean, everyone has a story. And I just like tell the guys now, like you're writing your story, right? You're going to write the rest of your story. How's it going to look? Right? You can't control everything, but you can control a lot within your story.
I forgot to ask you one of the most important questions of the podcast. It's the Go Earn It podcast.
Yeah.
When you look at your wrestling career, how would you describe your Go Earn It moment when you had to go get it, backs against the wall, you had to figure it out?
As far like in a match or like
It could be in a match, it could be in your career, a point in your career, anything you remember from just having to go earn it.
yeah, I mean, it could be, man, it could be a lot of things. It could be like my first year going and like earning my spot on the team. I think was like a big thing. Earning my first scholarship was a huge thing for me. Um, where it was like Doug had said, like in the recruiting process, like, hey, like you put work in, I'm going to reward you. So my first year was a walk on, and the second year I had $400. Third year $300, right? And then I had All American, so I had All American with that, and then I was able to get my tuition, but I think that was like what a lot of pride in that. Graduating college, the first of my like immediate family to graduate college. That was good. And the other thing would be like wrestling wise, just like you said, but that first year, I mean, I was below 500 in my first year starting, and like not shutting the door on myself, right, and still betting on myself, still going to work, and still chasing after something, and not put my head down and succumbing to the results that were happening. Right. I didn't cave to that. And I'm very proud of that, I would say, because I think a lot of people would turn the other way. Yeah. So I think those would be and then if it was a moment, a go earn it moment, it would probably be the NCAA finals in the last 30 seconds. It was a pretty big, like we talk about you get to a point in a match where you're kind of spiraling a little bit, you're feeling it, legs are heavy, trying to breathe. And you know what's crazy about that last takedown sequence? If you watch it back, this is a whole bunch of people pointed out. Randy Pugh, like he called out the shot, almost like a coach calling a play. He goes, like, fake left, couple times, go right into a misdirection. And you'll see it like certain angles, you see him go. And that's what happened. I'm not saying I saw him do that or anything, but he did that, and that's him knowing me a lot too. But going back to what Millboy had said of, bring Pittsburgh to practice, I swear to you, the moment I had in the national finals of winning, I got the takedown secured and I got a cross wrist. And I probably could have got some back points out of it because I had that thing free, like tight. And I had a good cross wrist tilt. I had that same exact moment in practice. And it was like, you need a score with like, it was probably like 15 seconds left. You got it. And that's the situations that, we'd create in practice. And I went and got it. I remember like kind of like looking up in the middle of practice, like an idiot. I probably looked like an idiot. Right. But like for whatever reason, I was like, and it's so hard to do it. How do you make it real in practice? But I tell you, I had that moment. And for whatever reason, it's crazy. It's beyond me. But I just remember like it happened and like I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh. And you can like, and not this, I think Max is a great guy, but you can like when someone feels defeated, you can like feel them just kind of like deflate. And, you feel that. And it's like, and I'm still squeezing the shit out of him. I'm not gonna like, heck no, this is, you're not getting this wrist back until this thing is over. And yeah, so I was glad he won down the road.
Yeah, he
So
won it in 2022 in
mhm.
Detroit. 2019 national champion Drew Foster, where is your wall chart?
Oh, it's down. It's actually down in the basement right now. Well, I'm actually kind of. This is like one of the things I'm a little like PO'd about. So like growing up, I never had a state title, so I never had the bracket like
Yeah.
in the wood like
Yep.
framed in. I never had that. So I'm like, I win nationals. I'm like, oh yes, I'm getting it. I'm getting my bracket. Like it's gonna be sweet. The coach called me to the office one day. They're like, hey, we got, these gifts because I got like the Big 12 wrestler thing. So I got that. And someone made me this like weightlifting belt. It says like, it's like a championship belt, but it's a weightlifting belt, kind of sweet. It's purple and has like chrome, like champ 184. It's pretty sweet. We got a couple of things and then they got this like package and it's like pretty small. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Opening it up. And it's a cool idea. It's a cool idea. I'm not knocking it. I just have this. I had this like because I wanted a big bracket framed and wood, like all my life, basically. Because from high school, like I've seen so many high schoolers have it, and it's like a Resolite, like the or Dahmer like roll up mat with the bracket like printed on it.
Okay.
So it's
I'll
like a
bet it's
piece of mat.
Resolite, I would think.
Yeah, it's Resolite, I think, and it's rolled up or it's like and it's like full. So it's like. And I just remember like being like, what is this? Like, this is not what I envisioned. This is not.
What do you mean? Don't you have the big bracket?
No, they do this. They make it. It's like a piece of
What?
mat.
You're kidding. I'm
It's like the roll up.
completely thrown off right now, Drew. So you're telling me you don't have the big wall chart?
Now I do. Here. I'll take you downstairs.
Okay.
I'll take you downstairs to show you. It's and it's I don't want to like it's still cool. It's the wall chart. It has a bracket on it. We
Well, why
got
don't
some.
you take the wall chart that you have and just go get it framed?
I could, but it's a mat. Is the thing.
God, I'm
So
learning something new here. I'm
so it looks from here. It's like yes, but
okay.
this. So
So
I got it
that's
here. But it is like can you see this?
okay. I can. Okay.
So it's cool.
It
Like
is.
I'm not
Yeah.
knocking it, but in
Sure.
my
I know what
head,
you mean.
I wanted like I wanted the big bracket, like
Yeah.
horizontal.
I'm completely thrown off right now. I mean, I thought if you won a national title, because let me ask you this. Well, I guess when you stand atop the podium, I know they give you the little trophy. Don't they give you a big bracket to hold up?
No.
God, I'm not
And
paying
I don't know if they
attention.
did. I think they used to, but yeah, when it was just the trophy. Um,
Oh, the big, I mean, Drew, you and I gotta fix this. Like,
I
we gotta
know.
fix this. I guess I never paid that close attention. I assumed, I mean, you win the national title, you're up there with the big bracket.
Yeah, that's what for the Big 12. I think Big 10 probably does it too. You get like Big 12 is huge.
Yeah.
And there's like in Big 12 brackets aren't that big. But so I got a couple of those and that's what I'm expecting. And I was like, oh, I remember just being so disappointed because like I just envisioned I'm like, all right, am I like my basement someday I'm gonna have this thing
Oh,
framed up. It's gonna be
absolutely.
awesome. And it's not that it's not awesome.
Sure, I
It's
know
just
what you mean. Yeah, it's very
I had
cool,
this
but
image in
it's
my
more like
head.
it's one of those things where it's like that's cool if it's the second thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
like that's a great little add-on. That's cool.
Yes.
But Drew, You and I are onto something here. I'm not. I mean, I just assumed everybody had this big wall chart. You know, you won the tournament. There you are with the big chart. I guess I didn't pay that close attention. I just assumed that was the
Yeah.
case, but I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah. And then I know they're still doing this because Parker just got the same thing last year. Because he was a little thrown off too. He's like, "Oh, this is cool," but I'm like, "No, this is what they do, man."
Listen, Drew. We're gonna try to fix this. Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna try to fix this. I'm with you. I mean, if you win a national title, it's kind of like, not to get off on too many rants here or pick on anybody, but like I love the 4 trophies. 4 trophies. It's
Oh
always
yeah.
been like that. So now they cut it to 3. It's not about the trophy. It could be a piece of paper.
Right.
It's not about the trophy, right? It's about the piece of paper. If you want to cut budget, make it a,
You get rid of the
I don't know,
trophy,
I
yeah,
think it'd
or
be
like
fine.
you just get a first place trophy or something. Yeah.
Yes, but the wall chart, I mean, that's a big deal. You got to have the big bracket chart.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like that's a little bit cheaper than like doing the wrestle height.
For sure, because I would tell you this. Here's my guess, and maybe I'm wrong on this. But if I won a national title, the trophy's cool. I want the big bracket.
Yep. Yeah. Because that tells
Right?
the story. That tells the story.
Absolutely, it tells the story.
I get the
Absolutely.
bracket. I get the bracket here. The trophies that it's still at my parents' house. Actually, we need to
Okay.
get it up here eventually. But
Okay. Well,
yeah,
this is something I'm going to investigate. But Drew, this has been awesome. This is why I love doing this podcast. I learned a ton of stuff about you, some great stuff. You got a great story, and I'll never forget it. 2019, it feels like it was 20 minutes ago, but all of a sudden we're coming up on, 6 years ago. But
no
when you're a
kidding.
national champ, you're a national champ forever. So
Yep.
really appreciate the time, Drew. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.